Well, welcome back to another module of QART. This is Module 6, Practical Applications in the Daily Life. Last week we talked about memory wheels and how to develop memory wheels and how to use memory wheels. And so since then we've spent a little time working with our memory wheels. And now we're kind of bringing QART to a conclusion where we're talking about how to take everything that we've learned, all the experiences that we've had, and then integrate it into our lives so that we have a daily practice that we can use and grow with. So, why does a daily or a continued practice matter? Um, and for me, a continual practice is important because it makes it something that I can use, right? Like
Right.
if we can't use it, then why did we do this whole thing? So,
Right.
you know, interacting with the tools that we've learned, using it as a ritual practice, so a daily practice where we think about it, we think about how to use it, um, and it really expands when you can put it into action versus just leaving it alone as a course and then thinking about it sometimes. Um,
Right.
so you know, one thing that's important when you create a practice is having a environment that is helpful and supportive towards the practice that you're trying to do. So, if we're trying to meditate, we might want to be in a quiet space. We don't want to be generally out doing a bunch of stuff, because we're trying to really be aware of what we're doing. So, court is the same thing. You know, we taught the course as something that you can do when you're um, in an environment, an active environment. But when you're trying to discover new energies and archetypal energies, and you're trying to, say, focus on your memory wheel, maybe an environment that's super active and super, uh, you know, changing all the time isn't a great space to do that. So, really, this module goes through and talks about how to set up an environment to do some of the practices, and also, scheduling those practices when it's uh, best for you. So in the program, we've suggested that you set up a time and you try to keep that time every single day within
Right.
the hour.
Consistency.
Yeah.
Consistency is important because it locks in the things that you're doing. You get to the point you're like, oh, it's time for me to sit down and do this every single time. That's going to implant into your brain, and it's going to help activate that energy to keep it going on the cycle. So it's part of a cycle. You make sure you do it this exact same time. You make sure you're doing it in the exact same setting. You keep doing that type of set and setting and doing it at the same time. You'll see so much more progression happening in what you're working towards. It will
Yeah,
happen. It will.
absolutely. Yeah, and one thing with rituals, our brains are pattern based. So when we do
Mhm.
something consistently at the same time, um, ritualistic, our minds know and are aware of the time and it will say, okay, now is the time for this experience. It's the same thing with sleep. When if we go to sleep every single day at the same time, then our bodies almost prepare ourselves to go to sleep at that time. We get tired before even we're that time hits, so that
Right.
we're always consistent with the time. Like some people don't have to even set alarms when they get up in the morning because they're so consistent, and
Yep. The
their
body
body,
just goes,
yeah.
"Oh, it's time." Yep.
Yeah.
Mine doesn't do that. Well, I think it does, but I fight it to every break I can.
Yeah, my body is not that good yet, so but luckily I have a baby that wakes up about is pretty consistent. So
She is consistent, I'm sure. Yes. So you have your own built-in alarm clock. It's
yeah,
fine.
yeah, it works. Um, so making core a daily part of your lifestyle, setting up daily reflections, paying attention to mindfulness moments, um, and one thing that often support programs and courses and stuff don't really focus on is being involved in the community. So in QART, we're lucky that we have like an active, engaged community that you can be part of
Mm-hmm.
online. But taking it outside of that and actually talking to people outside of the core community online and bringing it out into the world. So talking about, and you don't have to talk about court itself, you can talk about some of the things you're discovering about yourself,
Right.
some of your emotions and how you're paying attention to it, the new
Symbols.
awareness. Yeah,
The
symbols.
symbols
Yeah.
alone empower, and every time you're talking about symbols, you're creating that energy source to that thing that you're working towards. Yes.
Yeah,
The more you talk about it, the more you generate it. The more you generate it, the more it's always going to be there. That's when you start seeing things happening around you, because you're
absolutely.
in the center of the flow, and that center area is where that energy is constantly cycling, and you're constantly working towards whatever it is that those power symbols or those words or those things that you have incorporated into your daily ritualistic routine. That's what starts happening. You start pulling it all to you because
Yeah,
of that factor.
yeah.
It's
Um,
important.
Yeah, when I was working through court, I would talk to a good friend of mine about some of the experiences as I was having. Didn't
Hmm.
necessarily bring up court as the cause of them or anything like that, but I'd be like,
Right.
"Oh, this is something that's new. This happened to me," and maybe that friend, in my case, my friend also was going through some of the processes because I was sharing some of the information with them,
Right.
and they started having some changes and stuff. So we're creating like a feedback loop into each other about our changes and getting really excited about them.
Right.
Um, yeah, and that's one of the key elements too, is like celebrating achievements, and the progress that you're making in life. So paying
Oh yeah.
attention to the changes and then being like, wow, like celebrating with other people. I'm a big celebrator, so like big events in people's lives and stuff, I really try to make it special because
Yeah.
it's important to celebrate the wins, you
Yeah.
know?
The wins, the goals that you've set, the anything moving forward. That's how we progress.
Yeah,
That's how we get better. Gives us reasons to keep moving towards that next thing to celebrate.
yeah, exactly. Um, Also in this module, we go through a little bit of reflection about, the what we learn in court too. So, um, we learned a lot when through this course. Um, we learned about archetypal psychology
Hmm.
as Jungian depth psychology and the archetypes that we use. Um, we learned about how to amplify the emotion in those archetypes. Um, and then we learned about setting up symbolized visualizations and how to
Hmm.
use symbols with that. And then we learned about some tools like the memory wheel in the last module, and how to bring it all together in the memory wheel and actually use our focus symbol or our center symbol to achieve some type of goal. So, these are a lot of tools that you can work on um, as you integrate them in your life, and really personalize the practice that you're taking part in. Like court, this is a framework, I would say, a very structured framework of how um, one way of using these tools, right, these systems.
Hmm.
We've used them all our lives, really. To be honest with you, we use them all the time. Otherwise, they wouldn't be effective. But
Right.
utilizing them in certain ways is what court's all about. Showing you, oh, this is one way to use it. Doesn't mean that it's the way. So we encourage everybody to kind of personalize their practice, um, make it flexible in their life, and keeping in context to what they're applying it to. So
Right.
that's it's very important, I think, with any practice is kind of make it your own.
Absolutely. Spend time, spend quality time with it. Like, don't rush through. This is not a course to rush through. This is a course to go back through and utilize the different tools and go back and read about the archetypes and understand the energies, because the more that you do that, the easier it is to work through the system without even thinking about it. So the more the
Yeah,
material you have digested and know about, the more you're just going to constantly use it without even thinking about it. And then you're going to be like, oh, well, here I am at this goal. Now it's time to set another one and move towards that
Absolutely.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
important.
Yeah. Um, one thing about the court community too is that kind of anybody is a little bit of an expert. So
Mm.
um, we encourage people to be open to share their experiences because those are your experiences. They're not somebody else's, and you're the experiencer, so you're kind of the expert of that experience. And sharing your experience allows other people to see some of the struggles you're going through, some of the
Mhm.
wins you're going through, and also like synchronicities or and how those affect you, um, as well as like different things that you learned that were helpful towards you. Like
Right.
different tools that maybe are in the core system that you've explored or learned about, and it's been helpful to you. And it'll most likely help somebody else if you um, participate in discussing that with the in the
Right.
community.
It
So
helps validate. It helps validate the person because we've talked about
yeah,
how like I'll go and do stuff and then I'm like, am I really experiencing this? Am I actually seeing this? Did this really happen? And so if you're talking to the other people in that community that's doing the same thing, it does. It validates that what you saw or what you experienced did happen. Because 9 times out of 10, they're going to experience the same type of thing. And so
absolutely.
that it'll validate them and you. So it is
Yeah,
important to contact each other.
yeah. I mean, during the time you and I have spent together and the
Hmm.
discussions that we've had through the um, discussion forum and stuff, and you and I both have gone through some struggles even during the short period of time that we've been together
Right.
and doing these, and from that I've learned, and I think you have learned
Oh,
too.
absolutely. I have too. It gives you that sense of you're not doing this alone.
Yeah,
We're all going to change our whatever we need in our worlds to make it better, and we're all doing it together. It's a group effort. Because when I'm producing that energy and and somebody else is too, we're doing it together, and that builds even a stronger you know, bond between the two people that are utilizing it, or the three, or the five, or the 50 that we would like to have a part of this. And it validates the system, it validates the program, it validates the people, and then we're going to see change. And that alone is going to help, I think. Um, Maybe not in a huge societal effort, but in a smaller unit. And if other people can see that, then that's going to catch on, and that's going to be like wildfire, and everybody else is going to be doing it too. So there's potential for a massive changing happening in larger groups of people, and so that's exciting that we can possibly help do that.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and one thing that we talk about is a lot of positivity in court, but with change, there's sometimes negative things that come up too, things that
Yes.
are bringing us down or affecting us, things like that. And though we don't want to really dwell on those things, it's important to bring those things up, the struggles and the hard
Right.
times that you may be going through, so that people can um, acknowledge that and try to help you maybe find alternative ways to get through that. And that's part of being a support group is not just talking about all the good, but some of the bad, too.
The
So
struggles.
yeah,
Because they're there. You don't get the one without the other.
right, exactly,
So,
yeah,
and you start realizing your change through your struggles
yeah,
as well.
yeah,
So that's something to remember going through it. I'm struggling. I'm dealing with this. There's a reason,
yeah,
and a lot of times when the change occurs, you're able then to look back and go, "Oh, this is why this was happening, or this is why I felt like this," because it's kind of like it's like cleaning house. You have to clean the house to move on. So like you got to bring up that struggling, the negative, the whatever. Just don't dwell on it, because
yeah,
when you start dwelling on it, that's when you start bringing more of it to you. Want to recognize it, you want to see it, but then you want to move past it.
right, yeah. You bring up a great point, and that's part of the court thing is when you feel that negative feeling come up, um, in a way, neurologically, you're pushing up against the left amygdala. So you're
Right.
activating that because you're trying to move through it. So when you feel that that sense of fear or dread or um, it could express itself as like depression, you're
Mm-hmm.
actually it's a good indicator that you're going in a good direction because you're now rubbing up against it, and if you're able to move past it without dwelling on it, then now you're accessing the right brain and you're getting
Mm-hmm.
more of the information that we're trying to get. So um, it's in court we try to teach you how to bypass that, but it doesn't mean that you don't still rub up on it
Right.
um, when your mind knows it needs to move past. So it happens, and it happens
Yeah.
quite often to people. And people in meditation, they don't really talk about this too much in like meditation yoga, but it's very common for people to feel that in deep meditation states, the fear, dread, depression, things like that. They call
Right.
it like the dark night of the soul for a reason, right? And
Right.
and it happens. So, but knowing why it's happening really helps people understand. Oh, this is a natural thing. This isn't
Right.
something to be worried about. It's just
Right.
my body is reacting to an event happening to it. And it's
Right. And
totally
I
normal.
don't think we don't teach that either. We don't it teach a lot about the brain and how those types of functionings
Yeah,
occur and why and what to do when it does happen. And I think we get a lot of people in that state of mind and they don't know what it is. And they don't know how to help it. They don't know how to get past it or what to do. That's why what we do here is going to be essential to helping those
yeah,
people that are dealing with that. So
yeah. I mean, you bring a great point. I've realized more and more that there's a bunch of stuff that happens to me, and usually I'm unaware of it. So I'm kind
mm,
of driven by my emotions normally. So
right.
I may get angry at something I don't really understand, or maybe go through a phase, of things. But if I step back and I look at the bigger picture, I can see that, whenever I do this, this happens, or, and so so whenever, say, I'm not eating sugar, then I get mad, I get angry, right? And it's like,
Yep.
okay, well, the sugar is, withdrawal is actually causing the anger, not
Right.
the people,
Right.
I'm
Right.
just more sensitive. So it's like, okay,
Mhm.
so if I stop eating sugar, then I know that I'm going to get angry,
You're gonna get angry, yeah.
Yeah. And then I'm more aware of it. So then when it starts happening, it's like, oh, okay.
You
It's
can
like,
control the
yeah. I mean, we think of
You're like,
emotions as like things that we're un- we're unable to control or
right.
that are really important. And really, it's just like, um, you know, cooling water. It's like, oh, you put ice in water, it gets cold. Oh, of course,
Mhm.
or you put
Right.
water on the stove and you heat up the stove, then water gets warm. It's like,
Right.
okay, it's really just like that. And it's hard to see that when you're in it, but
Right. You can step out, you can step
yeah,
back, you can learn to experience the emotion and then step back from it and go, hang on, what's going on? And then you have that ability to decide how you're going to go forward. And it's split second. These things that we talk about are legitimately a split second thing that you can, after a while, understand how to do.
yeah,
Because I used to be very emotionally driven. Taking care of having a site and having to it's a free speech platform. So we have opinions and we have thoughts and we have all these things that are different all over the place. And so learning how to not constantly, go at that my knee jerk response when it's something that I don't agree with or something that it hits me in a certain way. Learning to step back and look at it. Yeah, this has been the best lesson in dealing with my emotions and how I deal with them when it comes to other people and allowing them to be able to have their their way of thinking or their religion, their way they worship or the
right,
way they think or their politics or whatever it may be. But it is, you have to learn to step back from that emotion, cool it down,
yeah. It's hard
because
to
then
do.
you can see it in a different light and you can look at it in a different angle, a different perspective, and determine, oh crap, I need to maybe cool it a little bit.
Yeah. Maybe not respond to the emotions so much,
Right.
but
Don't
be
be a
like,
bitch. Don't
oh,
be a bitch. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Or even let others know that, hey, today is not going to be a good day because of me stopping
Right.
sugar, like,
This is your warning. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
like something's not right today. I don't feel good. So
Right.
just give me a break.
Yes,
It happens to
exactly.
everyone, but being aware is a great step towards, I think, um, progressing to know your emotions,
Absolutely.
not be
Oh yeah.
driven by them. So, in this last part of this module, we have a personal integration plan worksheet, and so again, this is just a guide, but you can print it off and you can actually go through and set up your routine through that if that's helpful to you. And it just has some guidelines to go through and fill it out, and you can use that to help you plan out your day or plan out how you want to integrate core into your day. Um, but the main thing is you know again, building some type of routine with the system so you can actually like go through it and remember the steps and the tools that you've been provided, but also taking it out into the real world again and um, using it in the daily experiences of your life versus just keeping it into the laboratory. We want to take it out of the laboratory and make it
Right.
something usable in your life, and like a martial art, it's like um, we practice, people that practice martial arts, they practice, but there may be a time where they need to use martial arts, to defend
Hmm.
themselves or to move someone out of their way, things like that. And court's very similar in that way. Sometimes we need to
Right.
move ourselves out of the way, but um, it's a martial
I'm
art,
a I'm a hands-on person.
you know.
So I have a planner that I have sat down and I have put in this day at this time, and I look at it every day. It's on my desk at work, and I look at it every single
Oh
day.
well.
But I physically write down when I'm going to do this because I'm wrote that way. And so like this is what this worksheet was really good because there's an outline of the integration plan, and I just took that and put it on my planner,
Oh wow.
and therefore I can see it and I do it every day.
That's
And so
great.
that's a thing that some people might look at this and be like, "Oh, okay, well, this I need to do this." Well, put it into practice by actually scheduling yourself and putting it down and writing it down because it's going to stick and you're going to remember it even better.
Yeah. Yeah, for some people, starting that again is a challenge, and it may be
Yes.
something that you want to use court for, a small goal that
Right.
you know is achievable and that you can use all the tools again and available to you to actually set up that plan. So there's a good example of how to use the system,
Right.
for those that have
Exactly.
troubles with that. So
Use court for the end of the court
yeah,
system and
there
you'll
you
be
go.
perfect.
Yeah, and one thing that we talked about briefly in one of the modules, I forget which one, but um, court the court system is not a course that you just go through once. So
Right.
you can go back to any module that you feel um, is helpful for you for the time that you need it. Go through the system again and really dive deeper into it. I think of it as like a circle going inside of itself. It's like a spiraling circle. It's like the more that you engage with the system, the deeper that circle
Mhm.
goes. And
Absolutely.
and it's up to you, how deep you really want to take this. Um, so yeah, you went through module 6, Karen, and
Yes.
and explored some of these concepts. How have you been using core in your daily practice, or an example maybe of something that you've used it in real life?
In real time.
Yeah.
um well, I use court. I find that I've been using court even before I really understood what court was, because I've always set a goal. Like there's things, sometimes it's hard for me to get started with stuff. And a lot of times it's because the picture's too big for me to like narrow it down and say, okay, this is where I need to start. And so the court system has really helped me with that. The goal, putting the goal, finding my goals, and setting those as the first thing, and then realizing what energy I need to use to get to that goal. And this system has really helped me focus on that ability to set my goal, set my patterns, find the symbol, take that and decide what energies that I'm going to meditate and focus down with and move forward. And with this, I'm seeing, even as I'm going through my, I'm seeing my symbol everywhere. First of all,
Mm.
like I'm seeing the star. The
Yeah.
star comes up even
Whew.
more so. Yesterday, I was doing one of the videos, and I was drawing my, and I looked at myself in the video, and I have, okay, my favorite superhero ever is Captain America.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So I had a Captain America shirt on the other day, and it's got it's it was the circle and it
Yeah.
had the star, and I was just like, okay. And then everywhere I'm going, like, the star is prevalent in
Yes.
everything I'm doing, and every time I see the star, I think of the arc, and I think of the energy archetypes that I have put on my previous memory wheel, and it's just I'm closer to the goal that I have been working towards, and I can feel it because I'm doing my steps to my goal. I'm sitting down every day and I'm thinking about these, and I'm projecting into this symbol that I'm seeing everywhere, this energy. And I can feel myself moving closer and closer to the thing that I'm working the hardest on to get to. And it's just kind of amazing. The synchronicities are starting to come at play. Like, things are starting to happen, and I'm not even having to think about them. I just know I'm right where I should be. My daily meditations, I don't skip them. I
Mm.
didn't used to meditate as much, but I don't skip them now. I'm very regimented when I do
Mm.
them. I do them mostly at night, because I find that if it's the last thing I'm thinking about and I'm working towards, it's also the first thing that in the morning, usually it's what I'm working towards. And so
Mm.
it's that constant. The integration part of this now is exactly what needs to happen after doing all this other stuff, because now I can take this out into my normal world and say, okay, every day I'm going to get up and I'm going to set this minor goal. I'm going to work towards it, and I'm going to, at the end of the day, and I log at
Mm.
the end of the day what I've done through that day, because that next day I look at that and see how close I've gotten to my next goal. And within the last week, like, I've already met two of my goals that I had already
Wow.
put before myself. So, like,
That's great.
that's exciting. Like,
Yeah.
this system works. It works, and it's something that I'm going to use probably the rest of my life, because it's,
Yeah.
and I'm seeing the progressiveness part of it. I'm seeing the progress towards it. I'm there. I'm getting closer. So one of
Yeah.
these days, I won't have to have a day job. That's what I'm working
There you
towards.
go. Yeah, that's a great goal to have, I think. Yeah, work yourself out of a job. That's great.
Right.
Um, yeah, I mean, a few times, even last week, I started working out an additional day of the week, and I
Hmm.
wasn't at first I wasn't really looking forward to that, because that's like, oh, a lot of work, another day.
Yeah.
And but then I got excited about it, so I started using QART, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I started feeling that emotional energy, um,
Hmm.
the archetype of the resolve. I'd say, like, I use resolve quite often in
Hmm.
QART, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do this, okay. And then I got all the things that I needed to really feel good about it, like my headphones and stuff, and and then it was interesting. I had set a goal. I was like, okay, whenever I work out, I'm going to watch this TV show that I'm really interested in watching.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I finished working out, and I was like, oh, it was great. I really enjoyed that. Everything was good. And went home, and I was like, I'm going to watch another episode of that show, because I was
Hmm.
like,
Sure.
I was really into this.
Right.
But then I was like, I just put it on, and I was like, no, you can't watch this show because you were supposed to watch it when you worked out.
Right. It's part of your,
Yeah.
yeah. It's part of your court system.
Yeah, so then I was like, nope. And immediately I could not watch it. Like, it was like my mind told me, like, nope, this is
Mm.
for that thing. You need to,
Right.
that's what you said you were going to do, and that's what you're going to do. And I was like, all
Right.
right. So I stopped. And
Yeah.
that's how it's been for me, is that way. It's like, nope, you said you're not going to do this, so you're not going to do that. Or you
Right.
said you're going to do this, you're going to do that.
Hmm.
And it's it's almost scary, because it's how powerful that is. It's like, oh, I
Right,
need
because
to
that
choose wisely,
right. Oh, definitely. I think it has changed how I approach things. Used to be just kind of a fly by the seat of my whatever. I'm just gonna. Now I plan a little bit more. The
Yeah.
things I'm wanting to do, I plan it out a little bit more. And I do. I set up that court system with it, with the symbols, with the signs, with music. I use music a lot when I'm working towards things. And I'm the same way. There's certain things I won't listen to if I'm not working on the thing that
Mm.
I have attached that music to,
Yeah.
because it feels like I'm cheating. It
Right.
feels like I'm
Yeah.
cheating on whatever it is. Like you said, you didn't want to watch this because this is what you've attached to
Yeah.
what you're working on, the workout. You're cheating on yourself then,
Yeah.
because then what would you use to work out with
Right.
if you've already jumped that episode? So I mean, I totally get it, and it is. You just need to find things to associate, and because that builds that energy, that builds
Yeah.
that thing within you, that drive that makes you want to keep going and doing the things that you're doing. It's super cool. It's really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, you bring a good point. Like, and I just kind of realize this now is like my life has become more ritualized than it ever
Oh
has
yeah.
been before. So like
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Saturday night, like I have chocolates on Saturday night, and we only have my wife and I share like a chocolate on Saturday night, and that's it.
Right.
Like those are the only times we get those chocolates, um, and it was funny because I decided to watch the new Charlie and the Chocolate Factory movie with
Oh
her on
yeah.
Saturday
Oh
night,
yeah.
and I
Oh
did,
cool.
and I didn't even like associate the two together, and that it's about chocolate, and then we were eating
Right.
chocolate, and then
That's crazy.
yeah, and he said like something that was interesting. He said like it's not about it's the new one, so he said it's not about getting the chocolate, it's about who you're sharing it with, and I was like. Oh,
Oh,
I was like,
see,
that's perfect, I was like,
that's all
yeah,
synchronicity
yeah.
right
I
there.
was like,
Right.
wow.
That's cool.
So it was
That's
a
real
good,
cool.
yeah, it was great. I was like, oh dang, and it made me realize how important it is the ritual, of that experience too. So I was like,
Right.
okay, and
It's
it's
your
yeah,
bonding thing. It's your moment where you guys share together. Yeah, that's cool. That's
yeah,
super
it's
cool.
happening a lot now. So and maybe if I wasn't aware of those experiences and like fighting against the ritual being built in my life, I would
Yeah.
be maybe a little bit annoyed that like, but it actually makes just everything so much easier. It's like,
Right.
oh, like okay, these are this. It's structuring how I
It is structuring,
experience.
and structuring is, I think, it's important. It's
Yeah,
important, especially as we go. I think that's also why, like, when I sit down and I'm trying to work on things, like I said, it's the bigger picture, and I can't bring it all together and can't figure out where it goes until I start the ritualistic part of it and putting it together. It just kind of cleans that muddiness up of the scattered feeling, or the people that walk through their days and they don't know what they're doing.
yeah,
you know
yeah,
it's
exactly.
important, and this will help people, give them something to know what they're doing.
Yeah,
And building that structure is important. We know that with just life, period. But
yeah, yeah, and it's structuring around the goal. So the center
mhm,
symbol, it
right.
the life is structuring around that so that you can achieve that, whatever
Yeah.
that is. One thing that is kind of important, I think, is, and it's not in court, it's just my little thing, is that it's important to keep a secret too. So
Yes,
maybe don't
absolutely.
tell everybody what your goal is.
That's right.
Yeah, maybe just keep it a little bit guarded to yourself so you can be surprised and other people can be surprised when you achieve that thing. So
It is important. You're right. It is important, because when you start telling everybody everything, guess what? Somebody else might take it.
yeah,
Somebody might run it. Somebody might find out about it and be like, no, all kinds of things happen. Don't derail
yeah.
yourself like that.
Or doubt, like a big one is
Absolutely.
like doubt. Oh, you can't do that. You're like, okay, you know,
Okay.
yeah, we're
I'll get
not,
back.
we're
I'll
not,
get back to you on that one.
yeah, we're not into the doubt. We're gonna get this stuff done. So,
It's I can and not I can't.
all
It's
right,
always
exactly.
I can.
Yeah, I mean, I thought about a little bit of experiment. I was talking to a friend of mine, and I was like, um, you know, what's wrong with having a little bit of an experiment where instead of saying um, to people they can't do something, um, believe they can, and see who does better. It's like
Right.
if you put 50 people in a room and you all told them they can't do something and that they're worthless, they probably won't do
They're going to
anything. And
believe it.
yeah,
They
yeah,
believe it. Like that's programming. You
yeah,
constantly tell somebody something over and over again, over again. So it's better to be positive because they're going to believe it. So, I mean, that's what we want. We want to produce that. It's faith. It's a faith base. Like that's part of what faith is. Having enough faith that you can achieve something, you're going to do it because unless you've got somebody out there telling you otherwise, you can do it. You can do whatever you put your mind to.
right, exactly. So, I mean, that concludes our module 6 as you go through it. And then in our next module, really, I mean, module 6 is kind of essentially the end of the QART program itself.
Right.
The next module is more about just a quick review about what you've kind of gone through, which we did in module 6 a little bit too. Um, and also a great way to give us feedback, give the QART system a feedback um, about what your experiences were, struggles, um, and other things. So I look forward to seeing you in the next module and where we're concluding the whole entire core program.